Our next topic is cooperative production. Let's start our consideration of cooperative production with the simplest extant production structure, homesteading, by which I mean subsistence farming plus craft work. Homesteading is arguably the oldest production structure and is still practiced today, whether by choice or necessity. A popular description of homesteading is found in the early Laura Ingalls Wilder Little House series, written between 1832 and 1943 with her daughter, Rose Wilder Lane, and chronicles her childhood and adolescence growing up in a settler family in the American Midwest. For the most part, the Ingalls family is responsible for growing their food, making butter, cheese, and bread, tending their animals, building houses, preserving food, making furniture, digging wells, and hunting, along with countless other tasks. Yet even this folkloric homesteading production arrangement involves social elements. Mr. Edwards, a neighbor, would come to help with certain tasks, and Mr. Ingalls would return the favors. In addition, there were trips to town to obtain goods such as calico, tools, and sugar. Humans, as social beings, have always engaged in some level of cooperative production. There are some tasks which simply can't be done alone, such as moving a piano or raising a barn. But humans appear to have always been cognizant of the curious fact that when activities of production are coherently divided, more will be produced. Evidence of vast cooperative production endeavors can be found as far back as anthropologists can take us. Ibn Khaldun, who we met earlier in our brief history, writes that through cooperation, the needs of a number of persons many times greater than their own can be satisfied. Here are dioramas from the tomb of Meketre, a steward during the Egyptian Middle Kingdom period, over 3,000 years before Ibn Khaldun was writing, showing division of labor in the context of storing and counting grain, weaving, baking, and carpentry. Division of labor today involves many more degrees of specialization than was possible in Ibn Khaldun's time. The Industrial Revolution employed machine tooling to further increase specialization opportunities, and this dividing of tasks into more and more discrete subtasks is what enables automation to be attractive today. We're likely all familiar with Adam Smith's description of the pin factory, where the activity of making and packaging pins for sale is divided into 18 different tasks, such that a small factory with 10 workers could produce and package 48,000 pins in a day. He speculates that these 10 workers at most could produce 10 pins a day on their own. From 100 pins to 48,000 pins per day, how is such magic accomplished? Smith proposes 3 mechanisms for this increased productivity. Increased dexterity from learning discrete tasks, savings in wasted motion changing from one task to another, and innovations in machine and tool design. With regards to mechanism 1, a seamstress can make a dress on her own much faster than I could because she has developed a set of skills I don't possess. Mechanism 1 is also closely tied to mechanism 3 in that the use of a tool specifically designed to aid in a discrete task may also require the development of a routine dexterity with that tool. It's hard to imagine how mechanism 2, saving in wasted motion moving between tasks, could account for the average difference per person of 4,790 pins, so I'd argue that Smith's division of labor benefits described derive mainly from machining and tooling and the learned skill at operating such. Given the tools, it may be possible that a single worker with the same tooling could produce several hundred pins a day alone, at which case mechanism 2, the time it takes to move between tasks, will be more relevant in determining productivity. Thus, innovations in technology appear to be the primary modern driver in increased productivity. Here's a table from Charles Babbage's 1932 book titled On the Economy of Machinery and Manufacturers, a comprehensive study of industrial processes across England. This table documents the degree to which tooling is employed in pin making. Notice he doesn't observe anything close to Smith's description. 2 additional comments here. It has been observed that many innovations are the results of happy accidents, which occur in the actual process of production. It is therefore apparent that such tools and machines are invented by persons performing the relevant productive activities, rather than someone removed from the production process. Secondly, such advanced tooling today makes self-production at a comparably sophisticated level impossible. Meet Thomas Thwaite's toaster. Thwaite wondered if it was possible to self-produce an inexpensive household good such as a toaster. Every component of the toaster was sourced and produced by hand. Even the plastic was mined from a landfill site. What do you think of the result? Apparently, it succeeded in toasting a single slice. Division of labor is so fundamental to modern production that it's worth spending time to further develop intuitions about division of labor effects. So let's return to our seamstress and explore her decisions around making, distributing, and self-producing dresses. Let's assume our seamstress, in a given period of time, can make 10 dresses. Let's also assume that our seamstress has a target income of 10p, and p is an arbitrary unit of currency, and a target income means that this is the level at which she has a satisfying lifestyle. But she won't make any income off her dresses if she doesn't sell her dresses. Any time spent selling her dresses is time not spent making dresses. Let's assume that it takes 20% of her time in a given time period to sell dresses. So then only 80% of her time is making dresses. So she'll make 8 dresses. Finally, let's assume that she sells her dresses for P1, that price. So her equation is 8 times P1 should equal her target income of 10p. We find P1 equals 10/8 P, which is equal to 5/4 P. And we notice that P1 is greater than P, which is what we'd expected, so there's nothing really surprising there. But now, let's add a merchant. The merchant is going to do the selling of the dresses. Merchant has a target income also of 10p. Okay, merchant will pay seamstress, let's say P per dress. So now this seamstress is back to being able to make 10 dresses because she's working full-time on making dresses. This is important that the merchant will pay the seamstress P per dress, because if the seamstress can make 10 dresses, she makes 10p, which is her target income. Okay, so further we're going to assume merchant buys 10 dresses, each from 10 seamstresses. And they all have target incomes of 10p and a 10 dress production capability. And finally, merchant sells dresses for P3. All right, so here's our, no, let's not make that, let's make that P2. Okay, so here's the merchant's equation. We have 100 dresses sold at P2 minus 100p, which is how much he paid for the dresses, and that should equal his target income of 10p. Dividing through by 100, P2 minus P equals 1/10 P. P2 is 1/10 P plus P. P2 equals 11/10 P. And we see that since 11/10 is less than 5/4, we see that P2 is less than P1. And here is our first curious result. We see that the division of labor between making and distributing dresses results in a reduction in the price of dresses. In other words, the merchant has a cheapening that's in price, not quality, effect on dresses. We can extrapolate the same analysis to all goods in a speculative economy in which our seamstress and merchant reside. Notice that we've demonstrated a variant of the law of supply and demand, whereby as the quantity available increases, the price goes down. The merchant has 100 dresses to sell, while the seamstresses selling for themselves together only had 80. This effect is solely due to division of labor with target incomes. Now let's consider what happens when the seamstress makes her own dress rather than buying the dress from the merchant, meaning she self-produces. In this case, she keeps one of the 10 dresses for herself, essentially paying P for dress. All right, so here we have the seamstress will buy one of her own dresses. We're going to assume that all seamstresses are going to do, all 10 seamstresses are going to do the same thing. So now we're going to say the merchant, all right, so the seamstress is going to make 10 dresses. She's going to keep one for herself, which is essentially paying P for the dress. And now she sends 9 dresses to the merchant and receives 9p in return. So even though she's getting less, she's getting 9p instead of 10p, she actually is paying P for a dress. So that all works out. All right, so the merchant is now selling sells dresses for, now we have P3. Okay, so here's the merchant equation now. So 90 dresses being sold at P3 minus 90 dresses at cost P equals 10p. So the merchant makes his target income. So we have P3 minus P equals 1/9 P. P3 equals 1/9 P plus P. And P3 equals 10/9 P. Okay, so 10/9 equals 1.11, 11/10, which was P2 equals 1.1. So we have P3 is greater than P2. And the price of dresses goes up from the scenario where the seamstresses didn't keep one of their own dresses. Thus, an action that benefits the seamstress in the short run, purchasing a dress for P instead of P2, results in the prices of dresses increasing for everybody else from P2 to P3. By the same logic, if all the producers of goods self-produce, prices go up across the board, and all the producers in the long run will pay more for the goods they don't produce. I present this as evidence contrary to the invisible hand doctrine. Joan Robinson says that the just price is the long-run price. Everyone would be better off, therefore, in the long run if seamstresses, cheesemakers, shovel makers bought the goods they produce through merchants rather than self-produce. Thus, under a pure division of labor regime, no one should produce for themselves. One final note. As all prices go up, then the target wage of 10p may no longer be adequate, which would further drive up prices, which may in turn drive up target wages, and we have a mechanism for an inflationary spiral based on division of labor, target incomes, and self-production alone. Therefore, we can see with just algebra, we have demonstrated emergence within our simple division of labor economy and the counterintuitive fact that individuals making decisions to their short-term advantage can produce an outcome where all individuals, including themselves, are disadvantaged.